Hi, I'm Paul and I'm a lead artist on the Quench Arts Project plugin. This video is about the GarageBand app on the iPad, and today I'll be focusing on using the beat sequencer to create acoustic drum beats from throughout the decades, from the 1950s through to modern times. If you'd like more information about Quench Arts projects and what we try and achieve on the plugin project, then you can find their website or their page on Facebook for more information, and lots of other videos as well. This is going to be a beginner's guide to using the beat sequencer in GarageBand. You'll learn how to create a new song in GarageBand, how to find the beat sequencer, how to change the drum kit in the beat sequencer, how to change the tempo of your song, because we'll be working in different tempos when creating different styles of drum beats. We'll be looking at how to change the velocity, that's the loudness of different parts of your drum beat, to add realism to your drum beats. And we'll look at how to undo your last action in GarageBand. Generally a good thing to know, because it means you can get really creative, and if you get taken down a path that you don't like, you can just undo the last step and go back to how things were. We'll also be looking at how to add different sounds to your drum kits, and we'll be looking at how to record your drum beat into the arrangement page of your song so you can start adding new sounds. Okay, so let's go. So first, create a new song by tapping the plus sign in the top right of the screen. In the menu of instruments, find drums, and in that square down at the bottom, tap on the small icon that says beat sequencer. Now change the sound to an acoustic drum kit. At the bottom, where it says Modern 808 by default, tap. In the left hand list, select acoustic, and in the right hand list, select 4 on the floor, a nice tight sounding drum kit. Tap elsewhere on the screen to exit the menu. Now once you've selected your new drum kit, a pattern may appear in the grid and start playing. Stop the pattern by pressing the on-off button at the bottom of the screen in the middle. Next, clear the pattern, which will delete all of the sequence in the grid. At the bottom, press the button next to the kit name. Swipe in the new window to find new pattern. Tap on it. Again, tap elsewhere to exit the menu. To build up a drum beat, press on the squares in the grid. If your sequence isn't playing yet, then tap the on-off button at the bottom. Try tapping some squares on the grid. Tap the same squares again to take them out of the pattern. Once you've explored the different sounds in the beat sequencer, try changing the tempo to see how it affects your drum beat. To do this, at the top right hand of the screen, tap on the spanner icon. Tap on tempo and use the small arrows next to the number to increase and decrease the tempo. You'll find that the tempo is what you might also call the speed of your song. Next, try changing the swing setting of your pattern. To explain swing and how it changes your drum beat, it's probably best for you to just try it and listen and see what it sounds like, how it changes. At the bottom of the screen, tap the I button, tap on swing, and while your pattern's playing, tap on each swing setting and see how it changes your beat. The differences can be quite subtle and hard to hear at first, or they can sound quite strange. If you really want to hear the difference in the swing settings, then clear your pattern and then tap in a regular pattern just on one sound. To hear the difference in the two 1/8 swing settings, tap every other square in the grid. To try the 1/16 swing patterns, then tap every square in the grid. So now we've seen how we can make the same drum pattern sound very different by changing the tempo and changing the swing. Now let's have a look at how to change the velocity of different squares in your pattern. Velocity in real life is how hard a drum is hit. So this can translate to how soft or loud each hit is. By changing velocities of different hits, it can make a drum beat seem more realistic, like a human being is playing the drums. To change the velocity, at the bottom of the screen, tap the velocity button. In the squares on your grid, lines appear. By raising and lowering the lines in your squares, you can make some hits louder and some hits quieter. Here's a useful tip. When you've finished adjusting the velocities, get into the habit of, at the bottom of the screen, tapping the button next to it, the step on and off button, so that you are now in programming mode and you don't make any changes to the velocities that you didn't want to make. In the drum beats you'll be programming in this video, we'll be changing the velocities of some of the hits. If you do accidentally change velocities that you didn't want to change, or make any other change that you're not quite sure what happened and you want to go back to how it was before, you can use the undo function. Possibly one of the most useful tools in GarageBand. The undo button can be tapped at the top of the screen. This function means that as you are experimenting with the beat sequencer, you can get really creative without worrying about losing what you had done before. Because if something does go wrong, you can just undo the previous steps until you can get back to the place where you're happy. Okay, let's make some drum beats from the history of pop music. We'll start in the 1980s, because the drum beat from Billie Jean by Michael Jackson is quick, simple and effective. At different tempos, this beat can be used for lots of different kinds of music. In your beat sequencer, copy the pattern, the swing settings and the tempo on your screen, and the drum beat should sound like this. Okay, next we're going to go back to the 1950s. In this pattern, note the velocity changes in the squares, and you'll be using a heavy 1/8 swing setting, and you'll need to know how to add a ride cymbal sound to your drum kit and a hi-hat foot pedal sound. To add new sounds in your drum kit, on the left-hand side, swipe up in the list of instruments until you can see the plus sign at the bottom of the list. Tap the plus sign. In the window, tap ride, and a new sound is created in your beat sequencer. Tap the plus sign again and add a pedal hi-hat. For a 1950s jazz swing rhythm, copy the pattern on the screen and the swing, velocity and tempo settings. Please note, in the picture, I've deleted some of the sounds so that the entire grid can be seen on the screen. Next, starting with rock and roll, you'll now see a sequence of different patterns and hear how they should sound. It's probably a good idea when you're trying the different patterns in this video to clear your pattern each time. That way you won't end up with the previous settings, velocities or swing. The velocity settings are just approximate, so feel free to experiment and use your ears, make them sound how you like them. Obviously different drum beats come and go, so some of the rhythms that you've just programmed would appear in different decades at different tempos or the same tempo. Have you got a favourite? Clear your pattern and program in your favourite rhythm. We're now going to see how to record the rhythm into your song. In the ruler towards the top of the screen, you'll see a play cursor, a kind of upside down triangle. First, send that back to the beginning of the current section. To do this, at the top of the screen, press the button that looks like a triangle pointing left with a line in front of it. Next, tap the record button, which is the red circle at the top of the screen. There'll be a 4-click count in, and then your pattern will automatically start playing. The drum beat will be recorded across the entire length of the ruler. When it gets to the end of the ruler, tap the stop button, which is the white square that appears where the back to the beginning triangle was. Send the play marker back to the beginning of the section and press play, which is the white triangle at the top of the screen. That brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoy making music in different genres throughout the decades and making up your own drum beats.